All right then. So hello everyone. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. I am Bhante Warapanyo, American Buddhist monk and meditation teacher, child's rights advocate. And today we're going to be continuing our work to understand about childism. Childism is the systematic discrimination towards children. And it's going to take a little bit of time to start really understanding what childism is. It's not something we're going to be able to understand easily, just in the same way that when advocacy for racism and black rights, and when advocacy for feminism and the rights of women began, it was not difficult, or it was not easy to understand about that. Right? So when people originally started talking about freedom for black people or the rights of black people, that was a strange and obtuse notion. Okay? For example, people started to talk about feminism, when people started to talk about, in America, rights for women, like the right to vote for women, this was an obtuse notion. This was a strange notion. It was difficult to talk about, and it was difficult for people to understand. So childism is in that realm, but it's a more subtle realm, and it's a more difficult realm to understand than racism or sexism, for example, especially here in the present day. So when we talk about the rights of children, we are not saying that children need the right to drive cars, for example, or that children need the right to own guns. Just in the same way that if we start to talk about ableism, or if we start to talk about the rights of people with disabilities, right? If we start to talk about the rights of people with disabilities and we start to advocate for the rights of people with disabilities, that doesn't mean that we're talking about people with disabilities who don't have the ability to drive cars. That's not what rights for people with disabilities is about in general. Sometimes it is about that, but sometimes it's not. So it's a kind of subtle talking point and subtle topic to talk about. It's not easy to talk about this. Now, another important term that we need to understand as we start stepping into this realm and this topic focus of the advocating for the rights of children is something known as intersectionality. So intersectionality is when you are a person that is a part of multiple target groups. So historically and systematically, black people have been targeted for discrimination. And historically and systematically, women, for example, have been targeted for discrimination. Now, imagine being a black woman. This is an intersectional point of discrimination. Now imagine being a black woman that is also a girl, also a child. So children are really at the core of intersectionality when it comes to human beings, because children can be disabled, children can be black, children can be gay, and all of these things kind of come together to make them a really strong point for addressing prejudice and discrimination. So in this video today, and in our work moving forward together as a community, of course, we will continue to focus on Buddhism and meditation and the development of prajna wisdom, or insight into the true nature of reality. We're not going to stop talking about that, but we're going to look into this work of childism. We're going to try and develop our understanding of it. We're going to try and become informed about it, and then take a socially engaged role concerned with wisdom-informed child rights advocacy. Okay? And one of the big points that I can bring up and kind of encourage people to do as they slowly start to advocate and understand childism is don't stop talking about childism, especially when it comes to leftist groups, progressive groups, groups that say they are concerned with social rights issues or human rights issues. we as people who are even slightly educated or slightly aware of childism should go into these environments, go into these groups, and start to talk about childism, start to ask, what is childism? What does childism mean? What does it mean to be childist? What is misopedia? What is a misopedist? That is, what is the hatred of children, and what is someone who hates children? The reality of the situation is that a large portion of leftists, a large portion of people who are in progressive circles that are advocating for social rights or dealing with social discrimination, a large majority of those people are misopedists. They hate children, right? So there is a very large and active subreddit, a very large and active community called Child Free on Reddit. And it's actually a Misopedia subreddit. It's a subreddit focused on the hatred of children. And this subreddit is largely, I would say, probably 80% or more leftists and progressives. So we're not going to be able to tackle this in the way that we've been told that we will be able to tackle it. A lot of the people who are professing themselves to be allies in social rights movements, and a lot of the people who are professing themselves to be allies in human rights are actually misopedists and have internalized misopedia, hatred of children. So we're going to have to go about this advocacy in a very kind of sustained way. We're going to have to keep trying to bring it up. And we're going to have to educate ourselves at deeper and deeper levels about it so that we can advocate within these actually childist groups, right? Groups that systematically discriminate against children, right? And maintain a culture of misopedia or hatred of children. We're going to have to go into these groups and kind of start educating people. And that means that we will have to be educated ourselves. All right? So it's very exciting. We may feel the heart, we may feel the body, we may feel the energy in the body, and it's important that we're willing to feel that way. It's important that we are willing to feel the intensity of the body when it comes to childism, when it comes to hatred of children, when it comes to advocating for children's rights. It's important that we will be able to feel the intensity in our heart, in our body, in our mind, okay? But we also need to know how to ground ourselves so that we can do this research and that we can advocate in a way that is not overly emotionally reactionary. All right? So notice the way that you're sitting, notice the way that you're standing, notice the position